I'm from LA, from the Math Society Kings Artwork Rebels crew, 7th letter. Here doing a show with Boost Mobile and a couple of other good friends, Saber and Revoke. I first got into graffiti back in '86. I was introduced to it, you know, through a couple of kids back in school, and told me about this book. And the book obviously was spray can art, subway art. You know, I caught a couple tags maybe in the 5th grade. That was maybe like 89, 90 or something like that. I went from school to school and I kept meeting different cats, you know what I mean? And they kept telling me different things that I needed to learn about. And you know, I was heavily influenced by gang culture and gang graffiti. Wanted to be part of a gang when I was younger, you know, not knowing really what it all entailed. And you know, I started bombing and doing a lot of tags. I did a lot of different names though. So I would say from 90 to 94 was my transitions with a lot of different names. And just tagging and doing bombs and stuff like that. I went up, you know, at this other school I went to, I think I was in high school, it was probably like 94, 95. I met this cat and he had told me, he was like, after I got into a scrap with some other cats, and they were like, why don't you start piecing? And I remember I had a lot of misconceptions when I was younger, and I had told this cat, I was like, oh, piecing's for old cats, you know, I'll do that shit when I'm like 28, and I have a name that's 10 letters long, and you know what I mean, I spend fucking who knows how much time on a piece, but really I was really like incoherent. I didn't really know what was really going on, and at the time. So he had said a couple of important words to me at that time, and I think I was about 14, 15 years old. And he was like, why don't you start piecing now? And by the time you're 16, 17, you'll be competing with some of the cats that you look up to. So you know, that just made a lot of sense at the time. So I took him up on his offer, and I kept doing it. I ran a pretty big crew in LA for about nine years. It was called Last to Survive, LTS. And LTS, it was a beautiful crew, you know. It came, I don't want to say it spawned through gang culture, but you had a lot of, the leader of our crew was from a rival gang. I was hanging out with cats from another hood, you know, which was called Drifters, and my boy Verse, who I got right here tattooed on my arm, you know, he was a good cat, and he was the guy that introduced me to them. And then one of the cats, another cat I put on was Air, and he was from Mid-City Stoners. And the reason I got these cats tattooed on my arms is because they're both dead. They passed away. My boy Air committed suicide. Verse just got shot a couple of times last year, and he got smoked. And so I keep them very close, and I keep them, even though they were both from rival gangs, we were still from a united crew that believed in art. And there was other cats that were from other rival crews, but through that we painted a lot of walls in the mid-city area. So, you know, it was a homage to them in a sense, you know what I mean, because they were both beautiful cats that just kind of left this world so soon. And actually this piece that I painted behind me is dedicated to both of them, and it's called Ballad of a Dead Soldier. And it was you know, the title kind of comes from a Tupac lyric, because they were both Tupac fans. So this piece I did for them, you know, at the top it says Mid-City Drifter, you know what I mean, because that's what I always felt I was. I was from this area called Mid-City, and I was always a drifter. I was always just drifting from street to street or with people and stuff like that. So I created this piece. I did my first show back in maybe '97. Chas Borges gave me my first show, him and Mir won. And then I came out to New York a couple times and did a couple things out here. And it was always nice, you know what I mean? There's a lot of, you know, people get it kind of twisted. They say, you know, there's this LA, there's this New York kind of conflict, and you know, I'm a young kid that's a part of this culture, and I'm fortunate that people out here made something for me to do later, that I could kind of establish myself as a person of interest or someone who just wanted to pursue this for a living. So I don't, whenever I come out to the East Coast, there's no hatred, there's no like, I'm from the West Coast and fuck the East Coast or this or that, you know what I mean? Like, when I came out here, I remember meeting up with Riff 170, with Phase 2, like 2 years prior to that, Bama, Coco 144, Snake is the Wiz over there at the Fun Factory, you know, Coke is over there. I remember chilling with Purr and Saz when Mir was out here doing that wall in the Bronx. So I was just like a little kid growing up, and I look up to all these cats like they're my fathers, you know what I mean? Like, I never really had a father figure, so obviously I look up to these people like this is something that I want to emulate. These are people that I want to portray. Back home I got people like Chaz Borges. So, you know, we come out here to try to do something nice and something for the culture, something for everyone to enjoy and really be a part of it, to show the strength in numbers and that we're all part of the same program, you know what I mean? It's not really divided how people might want it to be or people might want to see it, you know. Guaranteed there's certain people that have conflict and stuff like that, but you know, we've been striving very long and we want to portray this as a beautiful culture. It's an ancient culture, you know what I mean? I don't think I look at it as something that, you know, is something new, something that's been around for 30 years. Guaranteed the hip-hop aspect of it, you know, definitely has been. But if you look at every ancient culture, it's what's written on the wall, you know what I mean? It's you know, whether it be Latin, Black, you know, Caucasian, whatever, wherever you're from Europe, you're from Latin America, you're from Egypt, you're from Africa, you know, you got ancient writing that was written on the wall. So you got America created this new culture, they created their new dance, they created their new music, and they created their art to go along with it. And just, I think what's funny nowadays, you know, with graffiti is just, or with aerosol, with the culture of it, is it's the only part of it that's still illegal. You know what I mean? Dancing and making beats and DJing and rapping, you know, all that shit is multi-million dollar, billion-dollar fucking shit. And then, you know, writing and doing vandalism or whatever it is, or you're doing graffiti art, it's still part of it that's still illegal. It's one of the truest forms of art, you know. I don't think I ever got into this shit for money, you know what I mean? I'd be lying to you if I did. Guaranteed I like money, you know. I know what my time is worth, and I know what I feel like I would be happy with, but I can't say I ever got into the notion of doing this kind of art form or hanging off a bridge or hanging off a ledge because I was gonna make fucking money or that. You know, I did it because it was something that made me feel good. It was for my peers, and I just wanted to feel good. And that was the only thing at the time that I knew that made me feel good. And that's what I'm doing now, and I'm here in Brooklyn. We're here at the Powerhouse Gallery. We got a group show with me, Revoke, and Saber, and that's just what we doing. And mad love to New York, mad love to Brooklyn, mad love to LA, and that's just how we do it. East Coast, West Coast. Love to X-Vandals and Wild Style, Tracy, and all them good cats that showed us love every time we come out here. Riff and FaZe, and you know what I mean, Cope, and you know, Saz, Purr, Miko, Coco, and the list goes on.